Former NFL player and sports analyst Marcellus Wiley is locked up in the Orange County Jail tonight. Jail records show that Wiley was arrested Saturday on a charge of domestic battery. He's being held on no bond. We're working to get more information as to what led up to his arrest.
So what happens when someone gets arrested? Prosecutors later decline to file charges because evidence isn't enough. And yet the public conversation still treats that person like they're guilty. That's the controversy surrounding Marcellus Wiley and Rachel Lindsay. And I think Rachel's response raises a much bigger question about the court of public opinion, because once the charges were dropped, should the conversation have changed, or is it an accusation enough to permanently label somebody guilty? And the more Rachel doubled down, the more I started questioning whether this conversation was really about evidence at all. What up, y'all? It's your boy Wordy, and we got some higher learning slash Rachel Lindsay slash Marcellus Wiley drama. You know what I'm saying? I think the bigger issue here is more than just Marcellus Wiley. Van Lathan may be Rachel and Lindsay's co-host, but my criticism is specifically about how Rachel handled this whole situation and what her commentary communicated to the audience, essentially, right? Because what started as a discussion about an arrest, it turned into something much bigger when the charges were later dropped, right? So I've known Marcellus Wiley probably since about 2000, 2010 when he was doing the Max and Marcellus show on ESPN 710 LA. That was the show that got me into sports radio. I kind of was more of a wrestling fan back in the day, and I slowly started to drift into basketball. So I've known about Marcellus for the good part of about 16, 17 years. So from what I know about Marcellus, he doesn't seem to be the type of person to be the one to antagonize people. He's kind of like a gentle giant. Like, he's never been to jail, not once, from what I know about Marcellus. Hasn't been to jail once. He's pretty much like I said, a gentle giant. Like ESPN 710 LA, that was the go-to show that I used to watch. I wouldn't even watch, I would listen to. You know what I'm saying? It was such a great radio show that I was like, how is this not a show on ESPN? You had Around the Horn, you had Pardon the Interruption, you had Sports Nation. I was like, why is Max and Marcellus not a show? Because it was such a great show. Their dynamic was crazy. I heard rumors about them coming back eventually, supposedly this year. So hopefully I'm waiting on that.
Being around the business of all my years doing what I was doing and consuming it, by far the best radio show that I ever listened to was Max and Marcellus. And it wasn't, listen to me when I tell you this, it was, I don't even know how to describe it, but damn, did you guys take over the market overnight when you guys, obviously got together. My question to you is, and I always see people ask, and I'm sure you get it all the time about that show.
Yeah, every day.
Why were the two of you so perfect together? Because I don't think you could ever put that on a sheet of paper and try to figure out, hey, how can you, there's either this unbelievable genuine chemistry or there is not.
This is a genuine conversation, and I respect your opinion because I hear it every day. And a lot of times I'll stop someone and say, why? Because the why is what's outstanding. Like, people are like, I love the show. I don't even know why. Like it's just crazy. And you just said it too. And I'm like, I stop. People say, why? And so Max, I think one day we were trying to figure it out ourselves. But Max always wanted these billboards, and we never got it. To my point earlier, we never got the support we wanted. We were like the biggest thing, and we knew it because everyone kept telling us that. The ratings were great, and we were like, dang, people are, like, we had a cult following to the point where every single day in every single comment of all my videos, Max and Marcellus coming soon, right? I think of all his partners, I've seen Stephen A. and, saw him before and doing Around the Horn. I gave him the best setting to allow him to be himself. Because in part, not only am I going to listen, but more importantly, they're assuming that it's me who acts like that. So you already, through association, going to get protected. They're like, oh, yeah, he hanging with Marcellus. I'm like, no. I don't act like that. That's him. And then they're like, what? I'm like, I ain't scared of nothing. And he like, Max on TV is not Max on radio. Max on TV, like, I'm like, man, you little mummy. So I think we both just integrated perfectly because we both allowed each other to be our true selves, where this world was telling us who we should have been.
But as far as this situation goes, when Marcellus Wiley was arrested over a domestic violence allegation involving his wife, Rachel immediately discussed the situation publicly. And I can understand why she took the allegation seriously because, especially because she reportedly knew both people involved. The original reporting showed that the police responded to the situation. Wiley was arrested and he was taken into custody, right? But an arrest, again, is not the same thing as a conviction. So that is a very important distinction to make that got kind of lost in the whole conversation, right?
It's enough for them to say, hey, he's a danger. in this situation, he needs to be removed, because that's one of the things that she asked. She asked that would be removed from the hotel room, which he was. She says that she was afraid of them because he threatened her life, and she was afraid of his behavior. You see the mugshot, his eyes are like
Bloodshot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's really all we have. Yeah, she said their 7-year-old daughter witnessed the incident. She said the daughter told deputies she did not see Marcellus touch her mother, but she did hear them arguing.
So did the daughter witness the incident or not?
She must have been like in another room or something. Okay. But like enough to hear,
right?
But not
that
to
there's
see.
A fracas going on, but like it was.
So they obviously. So that's adding to your question. Them gathering information on whether or not to remove him. So there was a witness who could hear something. Now, I don't know if she could hear what was being said. I don't know if she relayed that to the police officers. But she says she heard them arguing. And then you have what Anne Marie says, clearly his eyes are bloodshot. It was enough for them to say.
It essentially became that the evidence about the whole situation became the real story. You know, I think Rachel, she pointed towards things on her podcast, Higher Learning. And again, a little bit more background about Higher Learning. Higher Learning is a podcast. I don't really watch or listen to many podcasts. I listen to a handful: Higher Learning, Rory and Maul, Club Ambition with my guy Sound, and Brilliant Idiots. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes Joe Budden podcasts here and there. So I watch essentially these podcasts on the daily. So I kind of was aware of the situation. That's why I wanted to make a video about it, because Rachel had pointed out, and she had pointed towards things like the alleged argument, the daughter's account of hearing the couple argue, not really seeing the couple, but hearing the couple argue, and Wiley's appearance in the mugshot with his eyes being bloodshot red, right? But just because his eyes are bloodshot, right, that's not enough proof. It's not really proof that somebody committed domestic violence. And hearing an argument isn't the same as witnessing an assault. You know what I mean? And that's why I think the actual outcome matters, because prosecutors, they later declined to file charges, saying the testimonial evidence wasn't corroborated by physical or other evidence and wasn't sufficient enough to obtain a conviction. And that's a major development that should change how anyone talks about this case.
Let me preface everything I'm going to say with the famous words from one of my favorite creators out there, Mr. No Life Shack, who says, well. Oh, y'all know me. I laugh at my pain, man. I laugh at my pain. Let's just start here. I don't wish to do this. I don't desire to do this, but it is necessary. This is completely against my essence and who I am as a person who loves to just live life and do what I want to do. Don't put me in a box. Y'all know me. Only box I can exist in is no box. I'm not a fighter. I have not had a fight in my adult life, despite playing 10 years of football and despite growing up in the mean streets of Compton and South Central. Nah. But I am forced at 51 years young to be in a fight for my name, a fight for my children's future, protecting their hero in their mind, because the internet is forever. I'm also in a fight for legacy. We live in a world today where everyone knows the thin line between love and hate. And I don't have hate in my heart. I don't, but I have a lot of apathy. And I think that disturbs people even more so than hate, when you just don't give a damn. And y'all been rocking with me. Y'all know me. Y'all know the content I do. Y'all know a flavor of me. You know my persona. Some of you guys may think you really know me in character. Some of you I've been blessed to meet. We've hung. We connected. I've coached your kids. I've been at an event with you. We've connected. And the thing that really disturbs me about all that I have to endure and go through right now, how baseless this is, how false this is. The thing that's most disturbing is it tried to shake, fracture, destroy the foundation that I've laid for 51 years.
Because if a person wins in the court of law, how is that person not going to win in the court of public opinion? Now, I know there's plenty of cases, historically, where, especially in domestic violence, and I'm not copping pleas or, saying that domestic violence is okay. Obviously, there's a lot of people that in the past that have, gotten acquitted of all charges that might have done something. But again, from what I know about Marcellus Wiley, I don't know him personally, but from what I know from Marcellus Wiley, he's a very gentle giant. It's not really confrontational. He's kind of the one to help out, if anything, right? From what I've seen from the outside looking in, again, when it comes to dick and pussy business, you don't really know how that goes, right? But from what I've seen, there wasn't enough substantial evidence to acquit him, and he was acquitted of all charges. Now, the charges were dropped. So what now? This is where I think the entire conversation started to change online, especially with Rachel and Lindsay, specifically Rachel and Lindsay, because the charges weren't simply dropped because the couple reconciled or because the wife decided everything was fine now all of a sudden. The prosecutors, they reportedly determined that the available evidence wasn't sufficient enough to move forward. That doesn't mean, again, that does not automatically mean or prove that every allegation was fabricated, and that's an important distinction. But it also means nobody should casually present an unproven allegation as an established fact, especially after prosecutors determined they could not proceed with the case.
But just because that was dropped, the allegation was that he poked her cheek and he threatened her verbally. Yeah, somebody would have to necessarily be in the room. A cheek poke of the cheek, there is not any physical evidence, but just because it was dropped, because they don't feel like they have enough to prove their case, doesn't mean it didn't happen. And that's just that. Let's just say it was dropped. He's using the dropping of this Florida incident to define everything of their marriage and relationship together and who he is in totality as a person.
And I think this is, again, I want to go back to the question of, or the statement of the court of public opinion. Because again, if the legal system doesn't establish someone's guilt, where exactly are they supposed to prove their innocence? Because again, Marcellus Wiley, he can walk away from the case without charges being filed, but the internet can still repeat the allegation forever. And that's the problem with especially with allegations towards black men nowadays. Anyone can make an allegation against a black man. He can be acquitted. He can literally not do anything. But the allegations, as far as the court of public opinion, will still precede him, because a person can technically have no conviction at all while still being treated like they were found guilty, because the accusation becomes the headline and the legal outcome becomes a footnote, especially when it's a person that, might have a history. But in this case, again, from what I know about Marcellus Wiley, he doesn't really have a history at all. We're talking about a football player here, a testosterone-filled football player.
Stuck on his damn mugshot. Anyway, that mugshot triggered me. 51 years young, and then this. The filing states prosecutors declined to file charges because testimonial evidence received is not corroborated by any physical or other evidence and is therefore insufficient to obtain a conviction. I'm going to read that again because we're going to read that again. Testimonial evidence, that means what y'all were saying, received is not connected to reality, corroborated by any, look at the words, choice words. This is legal now. They don't play with their words. Any physical, or other evidence. Hold on. Any physical or other means all things of evidence. Nothing. And is therefore insufficient to obtain a conviction. You're damn right. We ain't got nothing. We just got you waking up and saying, hey, he did something. Just like right now, I could just say to all of y'all did something. Then what? Thanks for the super chat. I'm going to get to it. I'm in a zone right now. In other words, it sounds like prosecutors didn't feel there was enough evidence for an easy conviction or a difficult one. No, they did not.
I think Rachel and Lindsay, she also had a second round of commentary because, to me, her follow-up comments about after the charges were dropped were probably the most controversial. And even a lot of people, because I watch Higher Learning a lot, even a lot of people in the comment section were kind of grilling her because she likes to I won't say likes. She tends to be a little bit more harsh when it comes to Black men in court cases, domestic violence cases, anything around Black men. She kind of has a history of being a little bit more harsher than others, right? Because instead of simply acknowledging the fact that the charges were dropped while maintaining that the allegations can still deserve consideration, because she could have did that. She could have easily just did that. She continued bringing up the accusations and past claims surrounding Wiley. There's a huge difference between saying these allegations deserve to be taken seriously and saying this person is therefore a bad person, right? If those older accusations never resulted in criminal convictions, they should be presented as allegations.
Marcellus Wiley acts like this is the only accusation that is out there against him. It's not. It's one. And whatever happened that night, it wasn't like it was a phone call. Mm-hmm. I mean, whatever happened, they took him in. Now, I don't know if you saw Anna Marie's statement, but she said the only reason it got dropped, it was something about she wasn't aware of a court date and or a hearing or something, and she didn't participate. And now she's been trying to get in touch with the DA's office and they're avoiding her. Yeah, like somebody would have to necessarily be in the room, a cheap poke of the cheek. There is not any physical evidence, but just because it was dropped, because they don't feel like they have enough to prove their case, doesn't mean it didn't happen. And that's just that. He is using this to say that she's a liar. He is literally jumping for joy and relishing in the fact, which is very telling of his character, the fact that these charges were dropped. It's one thing, it's nothing wrong if he's like, these charges were dropped. I hope to continue to fight my case and prove my innocence. If that's something that he did, but that's not what he did. He shit on her. He centered himself and said there are real victims when someone makes false allegations. He's the victim. He does a hashtag that says men too. Mm-hmm. You have sexual assault allegations out there. Not one, not two, not three, four. From 4 different women. And you want to use a hashtag that says men too. Tell me you don't care about the seriousness of what's there that's surrounding you and what you are being accused of.
I understand why that rubbed her the wrong way. I get it. Because again, accusations of domestic violence are extremely serious and actual victims, real victims, deserve to be heard. But I also understand why someone who was arrested and who has never had a history prior, who is an NFL player, who you would assume a lot of NFL players tend to have a lot of those cases. In this case, he has no history about that at all, hasn't been to jail one time. They were arrested and then had prosecutors decline to file the charges because, there wasn't enough sufficient information. There wasn't enough sufficient evidence. Wanting to defend your reputation after being publicly accused doesn't automatically prove that you don't care about actual victims. And I think the biggest contradiction, the part that really bothers me, is the idea that Wiley's reaction to the drop charges can somehow become evidence against him. If someone is accusing me of something that I didn't do, I get arrested. And then the prosecutors themselves, the people that are there to prosecute me, decide that there is not enough evidence to even pursue a case in the first place. Why wouldn't that person be a little angry? Why? You don't have to believe every word Wiley says to recognize that he has the right to defend himself. And you don't have to dismiss the accuser to acknowledge that an accusation alone isn't the same thing as proof. And I think the question Rachel needs to answer, honestly, is very simple. What exactly would be enough to change your mind about Marcellus Wiley? Do you have some kind of personal vendetta towards him? If the charges are dropped because prosecutors don't believe the available evidence is sufficient, does that mean the allegation remains a permanent guilty verdict in the court of public opinion? Especially from a guy that has no history of that. It would be one thing if it was a person that actually has a history of this, because again, there have been plenty of NFL players in the past that have had a history of domestic violence. We've seen it. He does not. There's been 3, like she said, there was 2, 3, 4 allegations from 4 different women. But again, when you're an NFL player, anyone can make an allegation. Anybody can make an allegation. Not dismissing the claims, not dismissing the allegations, but anyone can make an allegation. And that's the bigger issue here. Domestic violence allegations should always be taken seriously. I agree. But taking allegations seriously should never mean abandoning evidence, due process, or the basic distinction between being accused and being convicted. And if we're going to apply that standard to other people, we should be willing to apply it to ourselves as well. So that was my thoughts on the whole Rachel Lindsay conversation. Again, this is a podcast that I watch all the time. Higher Learning, one of my favorite podcasts out there. I even tried to put my mom onto the podcast because she listens to the 154 podcast because she's Nigerian. She likes to listen to more Afrocentric, the African podcasts. And coincidentally enough, I think Van Lathan was actually on their podcast as well. So the fact that this is coming out now, and it's highlighting the podcast, but in a negative light, obviously, it's not helping. It's not helping the podcast case, obviously. But we are finally at 420 odd, subs by now. We're on the road to 500 subs. Technically on the road to 1,000 subs. I think we can get to 1,000 subs. Make sure you like the video. Comment what you guys think down below. Do you think he was guilty? Do you think the prosecutors? Do you think they had the right call here? Let me know what y'all think. All right. I'm responding to good comments, bad comments, negative comments, positive comments, all comments, because engagement is everything. I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.